You're listening to the Brilliant Breakthroughs Podcast, episode number 51 with Dave Rebro.
Hi, small business owners. Welcome to the Brilliant Breakthroughs Podcast, where we focus on creating brilliant breakthroughs for the small business owner. FYI, this is also the name of the #1 best-selling book for small business and entrepreneurship. The good news is you can find the book in paperback and ebook form. Just so you know which one it is, go to Amazon and type in Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. Fresh perspectives on profitability, people, productivity, and finding peace in your business. And I just want you to know, if you're listening to this after November 18, 2018, the book we're referencing today is that beautiful blue book in the series. So, hi, rock stars. My name is Maggie Monken, and I'm the anthology leader of this great book and book series we're talking about. And today we're honored to have Dave Rebro, #1 Amazon bestselling author in that blue book we were talking about. And he's here to talk to us about our productivity and how to live our life a whole lot easier than we really are, as well as our business too. So we have a lot of ground to cover. Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Maggie. It's awesome to be here again.
Great. And I want to be very specific because in this blue book that we're talking about, the 2017 series, we have two Daves. So this gets a little tricky. Dave Rebro, excuse me. His chapter is the 8th one, and it's titled Why Small Business Owners Don't Sleep at Night. So there's no confusion now what we're talking about. Wow. You know, Dave, you have a really great chapter that I think applies to everyone because you're talking about productivity, you're talking about productivity tools, but more so you're talking about a way of being. And one of my core values is simplicity. And I love what you offer up because it helps us simplify our lives and our businesses in a way that we may not have even considered before. And you have a personal story that goes along with this, I know, and you talk about it in the chapter. And there's an importance of, well, I guess I'll just say it. There's an importance in success when we start working on habits and routines, rituals, whatever we want to call them. When we start showing up consistently to support a new way of being that is favorable. I'll add that. That's favorable. Yeah, he's smiling here, folks. And I would just like for you to tell us a little bit about your story and then the importance of why it matters. This is a big topic.
Yeah, it is a big topic.
So start wherever you want to.
Yeah, in my chapter, I talked about a lot about routines and habits and how it was really important to me in my personal story to kind of get me out of a rut, being stuck, and actually help me get to a level where I wanted to be. Mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Okay.
And that really, when I was really at a low point, and let me kind of step back. In my chapter, I talk about how I made a big shift in my business. I used to be a technology system engineer.
Ooh,
So
big fancy.
this is very technical. And essentially what I would do, Maggie, is I would go out to businesses and organizations, and I was contracted as being one of those propeller heads where I went out and worked on computers, and I set up servers and networks and routers and all those big, scary technology words. And over time, that just wasn't feeling my passion. There was a shift going on inside of me. I wanted to, instead of being that guy that went out and fixed everything and set it up and configured, I had a passion of actually helping people use technology on the back end of it to support what they had to do in their job or support what they had, and some people, what they had to do in their life.
Okay.
And so I wanted to make a big switch. So I made the switch, And unfortunately, when you make a big shift like that and you want to take a leap and grow, you run into things you've never experienced before. And I was not operating mentally and from a workflow standpoint on a level I needed to serve in that new role. So I was really stuck. And I was going nowhere fast. I lost all momentum. It's just not where I wanted to be at that point. So I was not producing. So when it came down to me wanting to get where I had to go with this new passion of mine and this shift that I was making, is I had to really take a look at how was I thinking. So what were the habits of my thoughts, and what was I doing within my business that on a daily routine that was holding me back really from where I wanted to go.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
so for me, Maggie, it really came down to I needed to change the way I thought, so my thought patterns, and I needed a way to change how I worked, how I organized things. And that really came down to my daily routines and my daily habits. So let's step back even from that. Let's break it down some more. Let's simplify, because I like to simplify things.
Yeah, you do.
So if you think of a routine is really a succession of habits. So habits is one thing that you do. I have a habit of doing this. It's really one thing. But when you line up those habits together, they really become a routine, right? Because routine happens over and over again, just like a habit. And a lot of times, and most of the times, Maggie, you know that habits you kind of just do without thinking. It's like it's ingrained in your head. So
Yeah, a
there's
lot of
really
it is
not any thought.
yeah, subconscious.
Yeah, it's in your subconscious. Absolutely. Without getting too technical here, it's in your subconscious. So really what I wanted to do is, you know what, I had to be aware of how I was thinking, what my thought habits were, and then how was I working in my business? What are the things I was doing in my business that was stopping me to taking that next level, from being productive, from being in flow? So really it's really an assessment I had to do. And I wanted to share that in my chapter because I know a lot of us out there, when we want to make that next step in our business or our life, we want to make a change or something happens, we have to kind of come back down, simplify, and look at what do we do on a daily basis that might be stopping us, to get to that point. There's a cool review out there, Maggie, from Harvard that I read, and this kind of supports this. I actually have it written down here because I wanted to share it with you.
Okay, bring it on.
Bring it on. 45, they claim, or they stated based on their research, that 45% of what we do every day is determined by our habits. 45%. Now, when looking at business routines and habits, a huge amount of the day is based on the strategy. It's based not on the strategy decisions, but rather it's made up of the habits of what we do and the habits of our thoughts. Wow. And they go on to say that, so your habits really, Maggie, and your routines are directly related to your results. Now, results for us is we want to get to that next level, or we want to accomplish a project or get past something that's resisting us. And according to this research is we need to really take a look at our habits and our routines and make a change there to get to the next level.
Amen.
So, and I know based on the many different stages of your career, as you're growing throughout your career too, you had to make changes of how you did things, right?
Yeah.
I love to laugh.
I'm trying not to fall out of my chair. I'm laughing so hard.
Jack Canfield said in a quote once, good or bad, habits always deliver results.
Yes.
And if you don't like your results, Bob Proctor says, change your habits and routines. And that's exactly where I was. And that's what I wrote about. I had to change my habits and routines. So they're really important. They're really the foundation of what you do to achieve the success you want in your business and your life.
Right. And what I love about that is you were brought to your knees, and from there you said, okay, I gotta do this differently because
Yeah.
how I'm doing it isn't delivering what I need and I want. And then you chose to put yourself on a journey to find solutions and new ways of thinking and being. And one of my sayings is right thoughts, right actions equals success.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are dubbed the tech therapist, which I absolutely love. Okay. Um, because you get in our minds and you help us get in our minds as to how we think and then what type of tools are going to support us best to achieve what we want. And that is phenomenal. It's very unique. Not a lot of people do that. And, I could question maybe a handful of people would do that. You and I do very similar things, but we have a different application to them. Whereas I help people develop their business like that, you have a specific productivity tool or three that you use, and you help us figure out how we function, how we want to function, and then help us organize that. And to me, that's golden. And full disclosure, I have had some quantum growth leaps and I needed help. And I asked Dave for some help. And I haven't even done a third of what he's told me to do. And I am loving it. Huge impact. That doesn't mean I'm not going to continue on my path to do all of what he says, if that's even possible.
I'm
But
holding you accountable there.
yeah, you are. And I put it out there for the whole world to hear now that it is a goal to really step into it more because I see the benefit of what you're talking about,
Yeah.
of changing how I approach things to serve
Hmm.
me better long term.
Absolutely.
I think in today's society, Dave, you have to see this, um, that we focus short term in the
Hmm.
immediate. We're not present in the now. We focus in action in the now.
Yes.
And that's not always the best action.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. A lot of the clients that I work with, it's kind of funny. It really becomes a mind game before any productive results, kind of like you said before. And I love what you said before. And it's really establishing what's happening in the mind. And those thoughts, like you said, really become actions. And repeated thoughts over and over again really become the habits and routines that we establish throughout, our daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly activities. And that all has an effect on where the results we're going to get and how we're going to get to those results and how we're feeling about the results.
Yeah.
Uh, Something unique about that too is, this is not typical tech talk here, but feelings and emotions within you have as much impact as actually doing work. And I'll go back to when I was making that shift. One thing I noticed when I was a techie propeller head person and I would go out on site is I would notice people working in their cubicles being frustrated with technology. And maybe I had to go there and fix something or do something, but it was not necessarily the tool itself, but is how they were trying to use the tool. They were really frustrated and they had these emotions going on and it was overwhelm and frustration. And there's no way, Maggie, you can be productive when you're in that state.
Yes.
So they were letting their emotions really take over where they were at that point and could not even see, where they wanted to be or what they wanted to achieve because they were just, overwhelmed with that frustration and that overwhelm. And I looked at that and I would go in there and I would just try to ease them and figure out what they wanted to achieve. Let's step back and take that emotion out or address the emotion and get it. Now, I don't know, it's just kind of a innate thing I did, but I picked that up and a lot of that I apply now with my clients because, we all get into those, I want to get to that next level. I'm a hot mess right now. I'm frustrated. There's chaos. And that's what we tend to focus on. And we just build that up more and more and more and more. And our energy is not really to the solution or where we want to be. And that's got to be a shift really in your mind to shift from where I am now emotionally to where I want to be. And it's not the easiest thing to do. So coming back to our habits and routines, that has a real big impact on the habits that we establish, is what's going on in the head and how we feel about it. And we've got to change that. We got to change the way we feel, to think, so we can change the way we actually act, which will then eventually get us to the results that we're trying to achieve. So I know this is
Yes.
kind of woo-woo stuff, but it's important stuff.
Actually, it's science. It
Yeah,
just sounds woo-woo because it's not commonly spoken of.
absolutely. Yeah.
So you just said something really fascinating. It's about the action, and it's about the action to think different so you can create new actions that will
Yes.
support you.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a loop. And I think that's where it starts to get a little woo-woo-y.
Yeah.
But the first thing that I find valuable when I'm working with my clients is telling them, get off the merry-go-round. Just
Hmm.
jump off. You don't even care where you land. You're not going to get hurt where you land. Okay. Doesn't matter. You can tumble, tuck and roll.
That's a great analogy. I love it.
Yeah. Just get off the merry-go-round. Quit thinking the way you're thinking. Quit behaving the way you're behaving. And then the next step I've learned, and this really helped me to look at everything very differently, is to become the observer.
Hmm.
And you do that really well when you're working with people. You're listening and you're observing what they're saying and how they're behaving and what they're trying to do. And when when I learned to become an observer of my own life,
Yep.
whether it was business or personal, I saw all of my I'm using an air quote here, glitches.
Yes.
That's what I call them. Because it's just a glitch from what I'm doing to what I want to have happen.
Yeah.
And I need to work through that. I need to get reconfigured.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. I need to figure out a different way of being. And
Yes.
that's that slow down and observe what you're doing, and is it getting you where you want to be?
Yeah. When I was going through that shift and I was struggling in my business and I lost all momentum, I had to really step back and do some real deep self-reflection and awareness of
Mm-hmm.
how I was, as you use the word being, how was I being? Not only in my business, but in my personal life. And what I saw is I didn't like that. I didn't like the way I was being. And yeah, you have to step back and be aware of what's going on. And that's step number one. Now, we talked about habits and routines actually just happening on their own. They're innate once you engrave it in your subconscious. And sometimes we don't even know that's happening.
Right.
Yeah, you don't know that. And when I meet with my clients, it's really, we have to do some discovery first to see what's going on and why are you doing the things you're doing? And you have to break that down. So you're absolutely right with that. And I had to do that myself. So what I did is I start journaling exactly what I was doing, and then keeping track and almost logging how I was, I didn't even know what I was doing in my business at that time, to be honest with you. I was that stuck. I mean, what am I even doing?
Right.
This doesn't make sense. I heard all the things that I had to do right, but there was so much of it. It wasn't organized. It wasn't present all the time. And I needed a way to kind of step back and say, all right, I know I need to do these things. It's important to my business. But now I know, because I was aware of it, what I was doing or not doing to be able to take on those tasks to move my business forward. And that, you're right, that is so important, that self-awareness, that time to step back. Let's go back to your jumping off the I was going to say Ferris wheel. Don't do that, folks.
Merry-go-round.
Yeah, that's a hard stop.
Oh, merry-go-rounds are closer to the ground.
Please don't do that, whatever you do. But yeah, jumping off and coming to a stop and saying, whoa, okay, it's good to get off, and taking that time to, let's reflect and see what's going on. Because that merry-go-round is just taking me in circles and I'm not moving forward, right? I'm stuck. I'm
Right.
just going in
There's a
circles.
there's a lot of um, action, but no
Yeah.
progression.
No traction,
Right.
right?
That was what I was going to say.
There you go. No
Yeah.
traction. And we want to create traction. And for us to keep that traction, we have to go ahead and then come back to, all right, what's our habit of thought? And what are the routines that we do that support us moving forward? And that really is where our traction comes from. So that's important.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Routines that support success. What are some of your routines?
Well, some of my routines are one of the most important thing to me, Maggie, is how I start the day. And my research, when I was doing the book, or writing my chapter of the book, I interviewed some really high-end achievers. And some of my research of high-end achievers, one common thread with everybody was they had a specific morning routine,
Yes.
right? And the summary or the story or the results of this was, how you start your day is really how you end or how you show up in your day and how you finish your day. So it's really has a major impact on the success that you do achieve. So what I do is I have a morning routine. And the reason why this is important for me is when I was in that stuck mode, I didn't have a morning routine. I got up and just showed up and tried to figure out what I had to do.
A reactionary life.
It was reactionary. There was no plan. And I wrote this in the chapter. My saying is, if you don't have a plan to start the day, it's a guaranteed waste of time during your day. Okay.
I
So
love that.
yeah, and it's so true. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have morning routines. I didn't set myself up. But I understood that I was lacking in three areas. I was lacking in how I showed up to work mentally, how I showed up to work spiritually, and how I showed up to work taking action. And I knew I had to start the day or the morning to get me in a place where I could be productive. And I had to address those three areas. So in my morning routine, I try to address those areas. So to give you an example, when I get up, I get up and I try to get up every morning at 6 a.m. That's pretty routine for me. All right. I don't hit the snooze button. I don't turn off the alarm and roll over unless, God forbid, I'm sick or something like that. But 6 a.m. I get up and I immediately drink 2 to 3 glasses of water, 8 ounces of water 2 to 3 times. And the reason why I do that right away is overnight, you dehydrate. And research shows us, Maggie, that when we dehydrate, our brain function slows down. Okay.
Considerably.
Yeah. Yeah. So who wants to start the day off like that? I don't. And I made it a routine, part of my morning routine that, hey, I'm grabbing water right away and I'm starting to drink water. I want to start to, perk up and get the juices flowing, so to speak, and get that aspect of me mentally and physically going. And then from there, what I do is I want to kind of loosen up. So I'll do some stretching and then I move to some deep breathing exercises. And the reason why I want to do that is I want to just kind of calm and get that inner peace and be set and not carry things over and just kind of clear the mind. And from the deep breathing, I go into my meditation. Now, the
Nice.
meditation is very important to me because during that meditation, it's not always about clearing the mind and forgetting about things, but it's about bringing things that are deeply important to you to the surface and meditating about those important things. Because when you get caught in a position where you're stuck or you're losing momentum, you're really focusing on the negative stuff. And I was doing that. And I wanted to focus on the positive things in my life, the things most important. And I could achieve that during my meditation sessions. And then from there, I went to something called my daily focus. And my daily focus is taking that meditation one step further, where I use a tool called Evernote, which is an awesome tool. And I wrote about it in my chapter, and we can talk more about that in a bit. But I actually manage something called a daily focus, is where I actually put physical stuff on my screen that I review on a daily basis. It could be inspiring quotes. It could be goals of mine. It could be the importance of my relationships. It could be, I do something daily called my daily gratitude statements. I make sure that I go through this process or this routine to put me in a state of mind that I want to be to take on the day. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's important to me. So the mental, the physical, the spiritually, and a lot of that is a spiritual reflection as well. And if you forget about those things in your life and you detach from that, you lose alignment really from who you are.
Right.
And
And you
I
don't
want
show up the way that you want to show up.
to, yeah, it's not authentically you is what I'm trying to say. And I wanted to be authentic and get back to who I was instead of letting outside conditions control me. So I had to put an end to that.
Right. And when you talk about your daily focus, how it's things that you pull together for you, I know that there's people that have shared with me that they do that on Facebook. And they look for the inspiration, but the difference I see between going to Facebook and doing that versus creating your own is what resonates with you, and you don't have all that other stuff to sift through, which is other people's stuff. And then, there's not always inspirational things there. And then you get sucked into reading all this other stuff and you lose the whole focus of creating a daily focus.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because one important thing that you haven't heard in my daily routine is, oh, I check email right away. Oh, I go to social media right away. Or I check my text messages. No, that is a big no-no in mine, because what happens when you get sucked into that is you get distracted, and then really you get distracted in other people's agendas is what happens, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And you become a victim to what they want or wanted to share, and you lose that alignment with what you want to do and how you want to start the day. And
Correct.
then once you get out of whack and you're not in that flow, so to speak, that you want to be for the day, for me, it's very tough to come back to that flow once the day has started and you get into it. You're like, oh, I should have been doing this. And what happens is then the guilt comes in, right? And then there's some resistance that comes in because you're thinking about other things and you lost focus of what you really want to achieve during the day. And there's a lot of other things that come in that tear you away from that productive flow we want to be in, or that success we want to achieve during that day. So I really don't even look at any of that until all of my morning routine is completed. In fact, one of the gentlemen that I did an interview with for my chapter, Matt Beal, he is the CEO and he is the owner of Hawaii Life Realty in Hawaii. And he had said to me that his morning routine is the most critical part of his day. Nothing happens outside of his morning routine until 10 a.m. in the morning. And he has a series of things that he does, similar to what I do. Luckily in Hawaii, he gets to go out and he either surfs or swims or does something really cool with that. Being in Wisconsin, I can't really do that. So, but
Oh,
and he has really, there's nothing that he is going to allow to come in and change that morning routine, because he knows that if he gets distracted of how he's going to prepare or set himself up to be for that day, he knows that that day could be a negative day and be a loss. He's not going to achieve what he can.
right. And in our other podcasts, you and I have talked a lot about the power of setting your day up correctly. It sets the tone for the day. And we've discussed our rituals even deeper, actually.
Yeah,
So if anyone wants to know more about that, go back and listen to some of the other episodes that we've done with Dave
absolutely.
Rebro. I gotta say that now because we have two Daves.
Yeah.
Because we talk about that, and there is power to that to guide us through the rest of the day. And I see it as a guide.
Yeah, it truly is. It's kind of like your plan, your guide, how you get that traction for the day. And that's really important.
Okay, so now you said something about Evernote. Okay, and it's a great tool. I know that because I've fallen in love with it over the last year and a half. Um, But there's a lot of people that don't know it. Or this is what I find even more fascinating. People say, oh, yeah, I got it. And they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much you can do. And, I give them something really simple and then they start doing that. And I'm like, okay, so you ready? Because here's what it can really do.
Yeah.
But you are an expert. You have a specific title from Evernote.
Yeah, I'm a certified Evernote consultant.
Well, that would explain why you're so awesome at
And
and
let me tell you why I became a certified consultant for Evernote. Going again back, alluding back to that stuck period, and I knew I had to change the way I thought, the way I my habits and my routines. Is it's one thing to make a change, but you need to have a system or tools that support that.
okay.
And I turned to technology to help me develop and maintain those and grow and establish those new routines and habits. And I needed tools that would really work the way I work and think the way I think. And I fell into, at that same time, it was a blessing. I fell into Evernote. Now, if you folks don't know what Evernote is, or you download it and you just didn't really get it, um, it it's really a Swiss Army knife of note taking or a note taking app. I really call it a productivity gold mine, is what I call it. Essentially, Evernote allows you to capture all different types of information and bring it into one workspace, one digital workspace that is accessible on any device, anywhere, and anytime. So I needed a way to consolidate all the changes that I wanted to make and put it somewhere so I could develop a system or a place to go back to and reflect that wasn't scattered on paper notebooks and emails, on Facebook, um, text messages, all over the place. I needed to simplify and consolidate and make it easy for me to access the things that I need to go ahead and develop these new habits and routines. And Evernote does that for you. It brings in the capture ability to bring all different types of things, including you can record directly an audio, so I could speak right into it and just record my thoughts into it. I could type things in it. I could capture resources or quotes or things from web pages and bring them into one workspace that I had. So it's kind of like looking at your office and seeing all that messy stuff on your desk and all your different notes. Wouldn't it be great if you could take that and harvest it and put it in one place? And then Evernote has this incredible search tool that allows you to find anything that you have within your Evernote account within 10 seconds or less. Now, I don't
Yes.
know about you, but when I was struggling, my office was crazy messy. And there's no way I could find anything in 10 seconds or less, probably not even in 10 hours or less. Yeah, I mean, remember the days when we'd have paper notebooks or legal pads, and you would go through those legal pads and you flip the pages and you try to find what you're looking for, but then all of a sudden you came across something else and that got your attention. You start reading that, and then you spent a half an hour reading that, going, "Oh yeah, I remember that," and you never really get to what you want to do, so you were distracted. Well, Evernote takes all that out of the way and allows you to consolidate all that information you want to remember and you want to use and get to it in 10 seconds or less. So really it's streamlining your content and creating now, based on that content, systems that support your routines and habits and help develop that. So that's what Evernote is. There's way more to it than what I'm saying, but I wanted to kind of reflect it back to the conversations of habits and routines.
Great tool, everybody. And we're you're listening to a master right here that can help you with that. So I love it. One thing I'll share on the personal side that Dave taught us was, all those manuals you have for your house or your tools or your tech, copy them and put them into Evernote, or go online and get the link for it and put it into Evernote. And I've done that. My husband just went ahead and upgraded our 69 Chevelle to an fuel injection. And he had a manual, and he's like, oh, I need this. I'm like, I know what to do with it. So if it ever got lost, or God help us, there was a fire or something, I would always have digital access to it. And I have a special file for all of his stuff like that, for all the cars, all his projects that go right into the Chris file. And he needs something, and I just pull it up. He's like, how can you do that? And I said,
Yeah.
it's almost magical.
Isn't that empowering though?
It is.
Be able to, and we talk about habits and routines. Well, we know that in our personal life and our business, we have routines throughout the whole day. For
Yes.
instance, if I'm working with a client, maybe in the old days, I was writing on a legal pad and I had notes all over on legal pads. And then I had to come back. And if I had to refer back to that, I had to find that legal pad and try to go find it. Well, that was a routine. The routine was not efficient. It was slow. Uh, it was sometimes frustrating. And one of my clients told me, it's a hot mess. It's really what it is, right? It's a hot mess. But to be able to take that old routine and grow new routines by using the power of digital and Evernote, to be able to capture that. Even if I still write in a notepad, I can take a picture, Maggie, of that note, the handwritten note, put it into Evernote. And because Evernote has such a wonderful search tool, I can actually search my handwriting for words and keywords if I'm trying to find something.
Right. And, I want to share with everybody right now, because I know some people are like, oh, I can't type while I'm talking to people, or blah, 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 blah. And I'm one of those people.
Yes.
I have dyslexia. So I handwrite everything. But since I worked with Dave, now I handwrite everything, and then I take a photo of it and I create a note so I can always go back and look at that. And it's so great because now I don't have all of these pieces of paper hanging around everywhere and cluttering up my space. So I'm free to roam in my office, and I have clarity, and I'm not only effective, I've become more efficient
Yeah.
because I have that. So in one aspect, I didn't change a winning habit for me personally of handwriting, but what I did change was the other part of how I record and organize it, so I
Absolutely.
can go back to it.
Yeah. I love what you said about clarity. And really, when you get into an organized system, and you can set up Evernote that way, and Maggie, you're doing that, and it changed my life. But when you get organized like that, and you have a trusted system that you can find anything you want, anytime, any place, it takes all that stuff that's in your head that you're trying to remember, and it takes it out and it puts it into that system, that organizational system, and it clears room. It gives you clarity in your head. Now, when we get clarity, that's important, because when we have clarity, that's where imagination gets to spark back up,
Right.
creativity. And then once you start getting all that together, you get into a flow. And really what we want to do when we work is we want to be in that flow where you know where things are at, systems are in place, you're moving at a good pace, and your mind's not cluttered trying to think of everything. You're just being yourself and being your creative self, and you're working. You're serving at the capacity where you want to serve. You're being at the capacity where you want to be. And that's so important. So those systems behind you and having tools like Evernote are very important to get to that point. And I'm going to jump in one more. I'm going to give you a tip, Maggie.
Okay, bring it
One
on.
thing I do in Evernote, when I work with my clients, I'm just like you. I love to look at my clients and see their expressions and how they're reacting, because I evaluate that emotion, because that's important to, as we spoke earlier, to what the success is going to be, identifying problems and seeing how they're reacting. And I found out when I was typing or writing a lot, I was missing out of that. And that bothered me. And if I would not write or record and just watch them, sometimes I would miss things because I was thinking about how I could help them, and I would miss specific things they were saying. Well, Evernote's got this cool tool. that allows you to record audio into your notes.
Yes.
So not only, Maggie, could you take and just write on a notepad and look at people the way you're doing, but you could also have that same note that you're going to put the picture of your handwritten notes into and record an audio note right into that same note and have a recording of that conversation you have with your client. So you can have your notes, you can have the audio recording, all right there in one place that you can refer back to. And what I do is I actually share those recordings back with my clients because they're in the same shoes. Sometimes when you have this great conversation going, you're just in the flow and there's things are coming out. And when you're done, you're like, wow, I wish I could remember half of the stuff we talked about. It was so awesome. Well, I'll share that note with my notes and the recording in there with them so they can go back and listen as well.
Yeah, it is very fascinating of all the capabilities that are available once you allow yourself to go play. And, you're speaking like you're a tech therapist or something, a productivity expert. So imagine that. We definitely need to wrap this up, knowing what time it is.
I know. You and I can talk all day.
We could. And, again, I would love to encourage everybody to go back and listen to the other podcasts of Dave Rebro's because he nails it over and over and over. And what you'll start to hear if you listen to a few of them is there is some consistency within his message, like significant consistency, because he's living it and he's practicing it daily. Dave, before we do a wrap up, what else would you like to share? Besides your favorite flavor of custard is?
Well, my favorite flavor, mint chip, hands down for me, mint
Yeah,
chip.
baby!
I love mint chip. We have a custard place in town called Cops. And it's kind of funny. Every time we drive by or my wife drives by, I'll get a text message. Ooh, it's mint chip at Cops today. So hands down, mint chip is my favorite.
Okay, so everybody, we're both from Wisconsin, and custard is far better than ice cream. It's denser, it has more eggs in it, so it's absolutely horrible for your diet and your nutritional value, but oh, does it soothe the soul.
It does.
And yesterday was National Custard Day, I found out, from when we're recording this today. So very interesting. That's why I asked. Thank you so much, Dave.
Oh, I appreciate it. I love our conversation. It's always fun to do this on or off mic. I greatly appreciate you and everybody that's listening. I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to this. Hopefully you did get something out of this, at least one thing that you could apply. Maggie, if there's anybody out there that does want to get a hold of me,
Yes.
they could check me out at my website, which is DR, C as in cat, S as in Sam, -solutions.com. Check that out. Not only do we have some podcasts that we've done with Maggie with the book, I have some other podcasts that I did with some other people that are hopefully just as good and will serve you just as well. Go to my website, listen to those podcasts as well. If you want to connect and want to be in my community or you want me to be in your community, look for me on LinkedIn. So go ahead and search for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. If you want to ask connections. Also, in our book, along with our book, we have an app. And that app is available on iTunes and the Google Play Store. It's Brilliant Biz app, I believe.
Brilliant Biz book, all one word.
All one word. And a cool feature in there, Maggie, is people can download that app, have access to podcasts like we're doing here, and there's a section there called Ask the Experts. Well, you can directly connect with me right through that app, and we'll go back and forth and we can converse in there. So it's just a great way to do it. Not only can connect with me, but you can connect with any of the authors that are in the book, ask questions, reach out, leave a comment about the book if you want to. And there's some other great resources in there as well. So that's another great place to get a hold of me. So I'd start there. That's a great app. I love it.
Okay, thanks. All right, so listeners, this is how you can engage even more with Dave Rebro. He just gave you some clues, but I want you to think about this. Start by reading the 8th chapter in the book, Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. And at the bottom of Dave's author page, he has an invitation for you. So if you would go ahead and click on that link or type in that link, what you're going to do is go to a very unique place on his website where he's going to actually say some of the things that he said today, but continue to take the conversation even further with you so you can go ahead and step into getting the relief that you're seeking, because digital can help. And you don't have to be afraid of it. You have a tech therapist to help you through it. It is phenomenal. And there's ways that you get to customize it to what you need and want. So check out Dave's invitation. And in the chapter, he also has, at the end of it, all sorts of different social media handles for you to engage with him on whatever your favorite platform is. And he already told us how to get a hold of him on LinkedIn as well. So what I want to do is say, once again, that app, our app that's dedicated to the book, as well as the authoring team, and all the podcasts, blogs, and events that we're doing is there. And it's Brilliant Biz Book, all one word. Check it out, download it, have some fun, poke around in there. You'll be amazed at what's there for free. It's all free, unless you decide to go buy that book.
Please do.
Yeah, and please do, because it's definitely pretty good. Dave, thanks for sharing about Click on an Expert, because that is a really cool option that we give people who download. And you'll share all your secret sauce with them if they do that. So thanks for that. But most importantly, thanks for your time and wisdom sharing today.
Wonderful. I enjoy doing this, and I love sharing and teaching, and it's always a blast speaking with you.
Thanks. And listeners, we appreciate you listening to the Brilliant Breakthroughs podcast, where you can learn more on how to create brilliant breakthroughs for your small business. Until next week, shine brightly.